In today's equity index futures markets, let's take a look at the NASDAQ futures today as they're realizing some pretty heavy selling pressure here today. We're seeing them down about 2.75% or 2.75% today. That's the low end of the range for the trading day, and we're also seeing now with this low close here, we're seeing the NASDAQ futures closing at the lowest level since early April, so a little over a month as we are seeing some selling pressure picking up here, and right around the 13,340 level currently. And when you look at some of the factors, I think why we're seeing continued selling pressure here in the NASDAQ futures, the rotation trade continues to be very pronounced. We are seeing industrial names, transportation names, even financials holding in there pretty well. Even though some late day selling today did push them lower, they still were only down slightly. But you look at the big tech names, and that's where we did see the selling pressure, and that's going to impact the NASDAQ futures. Now, over the weekend, we did get some downgrades in some of those big names, particularly when you look at Amazon, Facebook, and Google. Some analysts downgraded them as they still see some further headwinds for those names. And we did see heavy selling pressure, in the likes of an Apple today, Microsoft as well. So the big tech leadership names all came under some selling pressure, and I think that's why we did see this divergence or dispersion, I should say, between the equity index futures markets. Now, I want to point out that when you look at today's performance, we did see the Russell and the NASDAQ futures down about 2.75% each today. The S&P futures down a little over 1% currently, and the Dow futures down just slightly, down about 15 basis points or just under 0.25%. So as I mentioned, that rotation trade that's been unfolding throughout this year continues to have more legs today, I guess, as we are seeing heavy selling pressure in some of the tech-centric names and not so much in some of the industrial names.